Hi, and welcome back to DIY with Jeannie, or welcome if it is your first time. We do all things craft related, and this year we're going to focus on sewing, and I'll talk more about that as we move along. If this is your first time with us, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy, if you wouldn't mind hitting that little subscribe button down there. Last year, plan was to get to 1,000. Didn't quite reach it. Got about a little over halfway. And that's fine because I had motivational issues and didn't get as much done as I should have. Now, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a new year. It's a new me. It's a new time. We're going to get this. Now, today we are going to be working on a book sleeve for my new journal. It's my new journal, and I hate the fact that I just took the pen to it and I pray for the best because I've already lost 3 pens. So let me move that out of my way and go over the fabric that I have. I had this long piece of fabric, as you can see, very long piece of fabric, and I want to make a book sleeve out of it, but I wanted it to be extra padded. So what I did was put some quilter's batting inside and just quilted lines. Didn't care about how far apart they were, didn't care about any of that. What I did care about was getting it to some sort of straightness, if you will, so that I could then use it. So I have a folded end at this side, and that folded end does form a really nice straight line. So what I want to do is make sure that the sides are equally straight, and of course they're not. So I need to do some trimming. I did have to get me a new rotary cutter. I don't know. I've used this brand for other craft supplies. I've not used it for sewing supplies. So we're going to see if we like it. And if we like it, then I will let y'all know. You can get it on Amazon. Fairly inexpensive. And there she is. Came with extra blades. 45mm blade. And I'm hoping, I looked at it, I looked at what all it does. I don't always look at the reviews because a lot of times people review things and what they wanted is not what they really ordered, you know? So let's put that straight line across the top. Make sure we've got the bottom all lined up. I'm going to start here. I love my ruler. I do most of my cutting this way. It broke my heart that I did not have a rotary cutter for a while because this is how I cut. It is just easier for me. I lean on the ruler and I'm able to just cut these right off. So let me put that right down into the trash bag. Do the opposite side. Same thing. I am lining my straight edge up here. And, ooh, that's a lot off. So that's okay. It's okay. We're just going to cut that down. I want to cut it off the thing. So let me move this. Line us back up. Don't have my largest cutting mat up here. I need to have my largest cutting mat up here, but it's hanging on the wall over there. So what does that say? It's not completely prepared, is what that says. So that is off. Now let's do the bottom edge as well. Line it up against the lines we just cut. It's mostly straight down here. We're just going to trim it. Oh, good. I was like, I did not get that right, but I did. I just had folded that edge up. So I have this piece, And then I had this large piece. It was a pretty good sized piece. So what I did was I folded it in half with, not batting, stabilizer in the middle, because what I want to do is put a pocket on our book case, our book sleeve, so that I can also have a pen slot, because I want to quit losing my pens. That's my goal, is to quit losing the pens. So let's see about how wide do we want to make this. Let's see how long that is. That is 9.5 inches. If I fold that in half like so. I wonder if I fold it in half again. Would that fit my journal? Not quite. And that's fine. So that, no, won't quite fit once I get the seams in it. Then that's okay. So we're going to make it larger to see if maybe I could fit a book in there as well. So that you can see, I already lost the pen. It's here on the floor. I just saw it fall, but yeah. So we want it that wide, and that was the 9.5 inches. So we're going to cut this piece 9.5 inches wide. Put a straight line on the side we sewed. Wait, let's cut a straight edge first, so that 9.5 inches makes sense. So we're against that line we sewed at the top. We have a straight line. I want to make sure that we go all the way down the side and still have our cloth. There we go. Now, to get this, you just press the button and the blade goes back in. And I highly recommend you do that, because I have cut myself pretty badly. Okay, so we want 9.5 inches, which is 25 centimeters. We're going to cut at 25 centimeters. I'm going to lay it like so I can line it up. It's on the line on this side. I want to line my ruler up so that it is at the 25 inches or centimeters. Am I straight? Let me make sure I'm straight. There we go. Okay. Again, put the blade down. Put your hand on here and hold down. And cut. Like that. Now what I want to do is the same thing. Move you out of the way. The same thing with this, because because I want two pieces that are 9.5. I'm going to put our thing over here on the line. Make sure we are all squared up over there. Go to 25. And I did, while doing this, I did something that I could never understand how people did it, and I learned now. I sewed through my finger. And that sounds bizarre, and it is. So, don't even. I was holding the fabric down and I was trying to keep it flat. So I was doing this as I was sewing along, and I stuck my hand somehow underneath the needle to spread it like so. Boom, caught that. Broke the needle into 5 pieces, which was something for sure. And yeah, that's what I did. I sure did. I cut my finger. Sewed right through my finger. And that is a surprise, people. Now, you would think you'd be attached to thread and stuff. You're not. No, didn't happen. But, it does hurt. Leaves a bit of a mark. It hurt for days, and it went through here and out the other side, and that was a moment of what is wrong with me, for sure. Because you kind of lose your perspective there. So, let's move the ruler out of the way for now. We've got our 2 pieces that are exactly the same. Yay, go us. Exactly the same. We like that. Except I'm going to cut this one down just a hair more. And we have our pocket. Now, I don't want the pocket quite that far up. I want it about maybe here. Let me just put a pin so I know how long I want that. I'm going to cut about right there. That just lets me know where I want to cut. And then the other thing that I want to do, because now I've got my pocket here, I want to be able to have a flap on this side. So I am going to cut, how much is that, 2 inches, 3 inches off of this one side. 2.5. So I'm going to cut 2.5 inches off of this one side so that I have let's try that again, a flap that will come off of there. So let's go here. 2.5 inches will be easy to measure because I have the ruler and I can just do it through it. So I've got 1, 2.5. Let's get to our end. There's my 1/2 inch. Go across, making a straight line there. And cut that little piece off. There's that. Out of the way. And now we want to cut this one. Take the pin out, because now we know where we want it. I want to make that nice and straight. Go against the edge. And the first thing I am going to do is on that shorter piece that I have, I'm going to go tack the pocket down on both sides and then come in and put a seam down so that we have a pocket for our pen. So I'm just going to quickly go around out really close to the edge and then that pocket seam. And I will take you over so that you also can see us sew it together. Oh, give me just a second.
Okay, so we are at the machine, all set up, we have our pieces, and now I want to make sure that that pocket is lined up along my edges and squared on that piece of batting. We're going to be using these clamps to attach it rather than pins. I really like using clips. It is for things like this, they're so much better, I think. because they hold your fabric in place, but without the threat of me stabbing myself. Now, when I am doing more delicate work or I need to iron on top of it, I will be using glass head pins. Do not iron over plastic pins, plastic head pins, because you will melt them onto your iron and you will regret it. So don't do that. Be very careful. So I'm going to put 3 clips, one on each corner, one in the middle of each side. And then I'm going to go back and sew as close to that cut edge as I feel comfortable and make sure that I get all of it in there. Now, one thing that I did not do here is I did not increase my stitch length. And if you are doing thick materials, thick packets of material, you want to increase that stitch length so that it's able to get through all of it and still go at a moderate speed. You'll notice that this is super, super slow, and that is because I did not increase that stitch length. So while I'm sewing here, let's talk about what do you need to get started sewing. Well, obviously you need a sewing machine. And I'm not going to tell you, I've heard a lot of people go, buy the most expensive machine you can afford. It'll be worth it. Well, what if you hate sewing? Now you've got a really expensive machine that is just going to sit on a shelf. So, what do I recommend? Buy a machine that you can afford that does what you think you want it to do at the beginning. Do not go out and buy the most expensive machine. I have a expensive uh, Husqvarna Viking embroidery machine. I have been sewing for 50 years, roughly 48 to 50 years. I am not new. I knew that I wanted an embroidery machine. I knew that I wanted the machine to do a lot of the specialty stitches. But I also knew that I knew how to do it, that I was comfortable with my machine. So, I have another embroidery machine at school that I allow my students to use, but it didn't cost near what a Viking costs. If you'll buy the less expensive Brother embroidery machine, you can get them for $400 to $800 depending on what you want. You can buy them used. I would look over Facebook Marketplace, find a machine there, find a sewing store and see if they have any used or refurbished machines. But don't go out and spend a lot of money if you're not sure you're going to like what you're doing. So, having said that, buy the machine that you can afford, that you're comfortable paying for, but that is not going to sit and gather dust later. Something that you know either you're going to love it, or if you don't love it, it's okay that you spent $100 on it, $50 on it, whatever. So don't lose your mind. Don't go crazy. Now we're going to go over about 2.5, 3 inches from the edge. It's not an exact science. You just want a large enough area for a pin to go in, but one that if you sewed inside the edge, you're not going to lose a lot of space. So I went in about 2.5 inches, and I am just going to make a straight channel pocket down the edge. I am not backstitching at the top because I know that it's not going to take a lot of force. The pin is just going to slide in and out. I'm not going to be pulling on it a lot. So I don't need that extra stability of going back and forth over it. keep that in mind. So we've got our pocket sewn. I'm going to go back, make sure I've cut all of my threads. Do them every single time you stitch. Every time you stop stitching, make sure that the threads that were from that time you have cut. If you think you're going to wait till the end and get them all, you will not get them all. I say this from experience, and you don't want to give somebody something that has threads all over it. Excuse me. Um, so that is something to keep in mind. Make sure that you do that. Now we've got our first piece. I am going to take batting. I've got that raw edge at the top, that cut edge that shows the batting, shows the raw edge, and I don't want that to show. And I'm not going to fold it over, and I am not, because then it shows the raw edges on the inside. And again, that's my whole thing, is I'm trying to avoid raw edges. So I'm going to take some of this pre-made batting that I've bought that goes with the fabric that I have, and it comes already ironed into that four-fold so that you can sandwich it over the top and sew it on and not have a rough edge anywhere, not have an unsewn edge anywhere. They're all done. All of your seams are done for you. So that is, you want to go through and get that done here. There is more than one way, and I will show you all different ways to attach batting as we go through the year. But this time I'm just making a sandwich and envelope over it because I know that I can stitch it. It's not going to take a lot of distress on these edges. They're just really there for show. The pockets are big enough for things to go sliding in and out without pulling on that bias tape, so I'm not worried about it pulling off later. I just want to get it attached. Now you'll notice I'm using my clamps again. I'm making sure that sandwich goes all the way over that material, that little packet of material, so that when I sew it, I'm definitely picking up that um, quilted material. I am not missing it and having a raw edge show where I sewed through the bias but didn't keep it on the material. That's one thing that you do need to really be cognizant of, is that you paid attention to the little things like that. So we're going to sew across that, make sure that we get it attached well. We don't want to lose that and have it come off. That's why I'm going so slow. I did increase my stitch length when I did the pin pocket, and now across the top I've increased it to 3. When I do the 2 quilted pieces together, I'll increase it to 4. And that is simply because the um, thickness increases that much. And we want to make sure that it's not pulling those threads, that you're making sure that you get a good seam in there. We're almost through. Getting our last little bit. Just took our last clamp off. We're going to sew, and then we're going to leave a tail on the end. And we do that because we're going to be sewing over it again, and I can clip it then. So here we're going to cut that edge, and I'm going to need it again for the top piece, the flap piece, and I have already curved that edge. I'm cutting off my threads, and what I said, always clip those threads right away. Now, when people tell you you don't have to spend, or to spend what you can afford on a sewing machine, you do whatever it is that you think you need to do. But I highly recommend that you by what you want. See, this one I've done the curved top, and because bias tape has a bit of a stretch to it, um, you're able to turn those corners without it bunching up. So I'm clipping, make sure I've got all my little threads on that one, on that quilted piece that I did. So now we're going to go around, and I want to go further than my top, further than the flap. And the reason for that is so that when I sandwich it together, I don't have any area that is missing vice tape. So make sure we get it all. But see here, we're going to pull that around that corner, and it easily turns that corner. But I do use extra clamps because it is a corner. And again, we're just going to go through, make sure that we have sandwiched and have that all finished. So let's get that done, and we will fast forward through the sewing of this one.
Okay, what we want to do here is trim off some of that excess material. We don't want to come too close to the edge, but we do want to make sure that we get, or too close to the seam, but we do want to make sure that we get that out. I am using my Geiger, I believe is the name, scissors. While I say don't spend a huge amount on a sewing machine, do spend money to get a very good pair of scissors. Do not use your kitchen shears. Get a pair that is going to be for fabric only. Do not cut paper with it. Do not cut anything else with it. You want a really, that's the place where I would say spend a little extra money. Because you can't go wrong with sharp scissors. And then this pair I've had about 5 years, and you can take them in and when they get dull and they will service them. You can do that at almost any fabric store. Now you'll see that I'm cutting off those edges, and at the corners I'm cutting at an angle, and that's to get the bulk of that corner out of there. So I've gone around. I've got as close to that seam. I've got my little corners. There's my second corner. I've got it all put in. And now we are going to, after I make sure that I get it cut as much as I want, we are going to go in and turn it right side or wrong side out. We're going to turn it where the pocket is on the inside, and that is how we do a French seam. So now you'll see all that rough edge here. When we turn it inside out, we're going to capture all of that rough edge on the inside, and it is going to allow us to not have any rough edges showing at all. We don't want any rough edges showing at all. So I'm taking my turning tool. I showed it when we did the bookmark. You've got a pointed end to help you with corners. You've got another more rounded end to go along all of the seams to make sure all of your fabric is turned correctly. I know my sound is wonky today. I'm having to voice over because for some reason when I went to the second camera yesterday, it did not it didn't turn. Okay, so we're getting that the corners all pushed out, the edges all done, and we're going to make sure that the flap is up. You'll notice that it's flopped down after I was turning it inside out. I am so sorry I'm not on camera. My monitor is not right at I'm going to have to rearrange some things so that my videos on the sewing machine stay in frame. Apologize for that. But what I'm doing is just making sure that all of the edges are pushed out, all of the corners are pushed out, and getting ready to, I'm going to sew again and pocket that outer seam on the inside. So we're going to sew around all of those edges down to the corner, make that turn, and that will encase those edges, and we'll see that in just a minute. now we have all of our seams encased. We are cutting off our threads, making sure that we don't have any leftover pieces, and down at the bottom where I had to rethread and redo that, I've got my excess thread down there. So let's get that taken care of. And what we want to do now is turn it back right side out. So again, make sure all the threads are off, and then it is just doing the same thing that we did originally. We're just turning it the opposite way so that we get our pocket back on the outside. So I'm going to do it exactly the same way I did before. Okay, we have our bag, our little journal bag slash book bag, book sleeve, not a bag necessarily, but a sleeve. So there's my pen. Now, here is my current journal. And you know, I think, nope, almost, it almost fits. It might actually fit. It does. It fits right in this outside pocket. So I would still be able to put the book I'm reading on the inside. There is that. And all I have to do is pull that over, and I have it closed. Hang on. The thread. Remember what I said about that? Cut all of those little pieces of thread off. I think it's where I broke the needle. But that's just me. So there we go. So there's our bag. I could now go in up here, put my little handmade tag on it, just sew it right on, and there is, I've got my pen, I've got my journal, I've got room for a book. My edges won't get all messed up. I can throw this in my purse and not have to worry about everything getting damaged. My edges, my seams look good. My top and bottom look good. This is a very good day, a very good pattern. This pattern is kind of, hang on, I like to give credit where credit is due. I've started trying to do that. This bag, Andi the Maker, also Pin Cut Sew, they both put, this is my version of their bag, they both put tabs over with a button, and they don't necessarily use a pocket. Others have used pockets that make zipper top bags. I just took a bunch of their ideas and made my own bag. So that is where I got that information. I also would and considered, but not necessarily for this bag, but in the future for other bags, using, rather than Velcro, using a magnetic snap. That would be a good idea. I do really like the way this came out. I like the fact that my pen can now go there and I don't lose it as I'm wandering around. I like the fact that I can still get a book in there. Not this size book. She says, let's see if I can. And there's another pen I would have to keep up with. Nope. I don't think I can necessarily. No. This is just a bit wide for this bag, especially with the book in it. If the book wasn't in there, I think it would be fine. But there is that for this week. I do appreciate your coming and you're watching and you're visiting with us for this time. If you have any questions, please put them in the bottom down below in the chat. I love hearing from y'all. I love knowing your thoughts. What would you do differently maybe? What did you like about it? What do you not like about it? What was confusing? Because I like to make sure that you're not confused. As far as size, I used 9.5 only because that's the piece of fabric that I did happen to have. However, if you were going to make book sleeves, find the book size that you normally use. I generally read a book about so big, and I just would measure that and measure the height to make sure that you've got, because you want it across and deep all the same. You want to put those two together when you're measuring, because the thickness will also take up space. So you want to make sure that you put that in. But I didn't give you necessarily the best as far as measurements, because that is personal. I don't know that I would put this flap on it necessarily all the time. I can see the benefit of having it this much taller and button closure. I also love the idea of using rickrack as my button closure, but I also getting those thick hair ties, the hair bands, for ponytails for girls with really thick hair, and just sewing that in here, and then it's elastic and you can move it a little bit. Your height matters less that way.
Okay, we are turned inside out. We're gonna now look at where does that other small piece of Velcro go.
But that is our project for this time.
Which
I hope you enjoyed it. I love this fabric. I've had it for a while.
Put it again at the top.
And wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and I've decided I'm not saving fabric
over where that other piece is.
I will be putting together a what
sew
is
around
coming
it
in
just like I did the other one.
Probably be a short,
but that will
to
be
make
coming
sure
up
that
next. I can close
and
open it.
I hope you watch, and I hope you subscribe, and I hope you come back, and thanks for being with us today. Have a good time. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Have a good day.